Well, hey, I wasn't expecting to see you tonight either, but here we are. Let's do it. It's Friday night. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm Deanna. It's great to see you on this Friday night. Fun. I wasn't going to run a show tonight because I'm leaving on vacation one more week at the Cape this summer, tomorrow morning. And I have not yet packed or packed my projects or packed the children. I haven't packed anything or thought about food or 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 done anything. But put Magpie together. It was a ferocious Magpie day today. And when I woke up, I thought, well, I'm never going to be able to run a show tonight. But it's probably, hopefully, it's the same feeling for you that when I don't run a show on Friday, I just feel a little bit off center, and I just, I'm used to us hanging out on Friday nights, and when I don't do it, things seem a little bit out of whack. So I thought, let's just do it. Maybe I'll run a slightly abbreviated show so that I could pack and do some laundries and stuff like that. Oh my God. It's one of those days that just got away from me. I've been putting together the third issue of Magpie Times, and this is the country fair issue. There is a lot of material. Um, I'm realizing as I sit on the computer, because I sort of outsource a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are doing patterns that are free patterns from Magpie for me. I can't possibly hook stuff right now. Um, so I'm trying to assimilate those with articles and captions on photos. And I always think, well, the stuff is done, right? The stuff is done. My mom's like proofreading stuff for me, so she's sending that to me, and I'm making corrections, and I'm trying to put it all together. And man, it is impossible to do any of that stuff in a hurry. I need every brain cell that I've got to be able to put together an email for Judy with all of the photos, the correct captions in the right order, all of the corrections that my mom made, right, which I desperately need because when I don't ask her for corrections, there's plenty of typos, I'm sure you've noticed. It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's incredibly labor intensive. And it's like the most boring thing ever. It's the most boring work ever. I am waiting for my husband to come back with a unit of alcohol. Let him surprise me tonight. I hardly have been drinking at all. It's like this is it. When we're here, I'm doing it. But tonight is the night. It's the night, and it's not like the end of the world stuff. It's just I don't want to bring a bunch of projects on vacation. You know what I mean? So much. Huge shout out, thank you to everybody who contributed stuff to this issue of Magpie. It's another beautiful issue. I wonder if you're in our Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. And if so, if you saw that I posted a link to Amazon. Now, I know not everybody likes Amazon. I personally love Amazon. I hardly ever go out to shop except for food. The truck is coming up the street anyway. I get the toothpaste, I get the bits and bobs, I get the tracing paper, the batteries, the cords, the everything that I need. And I assume this is probably a smart way to do it. That's my feeling anyway. In any case, if you remember last week, I was really struggling with the uh, plan for moving forward with Magpie because it has been so expensive. And for me, that's scary because I'm still a small business, and it's like it's almost killed me at this point. So while the magazine does well, it's just so expensive to print it in small amounts. Now, hey baby, once the magazine is sold out, the first runs, and we've gone through our X amount, 100, however many Judy and I got, then it's a problem because I really can't get any more issues for under like between $27 and $35 a piece without shipping. So I decided to put Magpie back issues on Amazon, and I feel like it's going to work great that way because if you missed or if you're just coming to the brand for the first time and you're like, whoa, there's another fiber arts magazine, I didn't know that. Oh, it's loaded with free patterns and all of these fun people are contributing to it. Well, I want it, but I missed the first two issues. Well, there it is, and it's print on demand. So if you have Prime, you'll get it like the next day. If you're in Canada, I think even in Canada you get it the next day. You print it locally, so you don't, for international shoppers who are in Europe, in Australia, in Canada, you're not paying that big shipping fee anymore. You do print on demand and it prints from your printer. And it's exactly the same magazine. In fact, I have replaced some of the photos that I thought were a little too low quality, and I've made it even higher quality. So it's a nice quality item that is, that's going to be coming to you. And if you're a Kindle person, it's available as a Kindle now. And then you can download all of the free patterns, right, separately. So, I mean, I feel like it's a win-win situation. It was really turning into an impossible problem because my choices were stop doing Magpie altogether because I can't work on stuff that I can't sell for more than a month. That was choice number one, and that was right there. We were right on the threshold of that. Choice number two was to print them in small batches that I could afford as a small business, but then they would be close to $40 for a copy for you. And I would barely be breaking even if I was breaking even at that. And choice number three was to do this. And I think this is going to work great. So I am super hopeful, positive. I think it solves a lot of problems. I know there's a lot of buddies in Canada especially, and it has been a real thing sending issues up there for that much money. So I hope that you feel positive about this too. I just can't keep doing Magpie if we keep going the way we've gone. So we had to make a change. With this issue, I think we're going to do same as before. I'll probably split the huge expensive lot from Judy, send those, but it might be in the future depending on how expensive this next round is. And it's great because new people are coming to it, but it doesn't help with the problem of printing. You know what I mean? We're very small still. So I think it solved that problem, and I feel great about that. And this issue that is coming at you, the country fair issue, it looks fantastic. There's some extra fun stuff in there. I revisited if you remember the Sugar Skull pumpkins, right, from like 4 years ago. I was teaching them, and then I taught them again the next year. I teach that particular class every year locally here in Connecticut at Madison Wool. It's always popular. It just strikes people right at that time of the year. It's just the right amount of festive, I did 2 new pumpkins for that. So there's 2 new Sugar Skull pumpkins. They're completely funny and different than the others. There's a short article on that. I have a short article on Paul Klee and one of his iconic pieces of work. I have a bunch of free patterns in there that are just gorgeous. And there is so much other content from other buddies that is to die for. Fantastic. Well done, everybody. And just looking forward with Magpie stuff, I need that drink so bad. Just looking forward with Magpie stuff. The next issue is going to be Marshmallow World. And because it's a quarterly, this falls at like Christmas time, winter time, So whatever Christmas, winter, holidays you celebrate, feel free to submit work for that is holiday based, right? We're celebrating everybody's holidays, not just mine. And Marshmallow World is a very sort of loose theme, just a winter theme, right? Just a winter theme. It is the song I'm thinking about. So I am thinking of like a vintage Christmas. So think about what you might have for the holiday season in terms of projects that you would want to submit an article. If you have a pattern that you'd like to put forward that other people can hook to, let's start thinking about that issue because, man, these issues creep up even though it's a... Do you have alcohol?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll have it right now.
Cookies from the neighbor.
Okay, cookies from the neighbor. Forget that. Do you have where's the wine? Yeah. And then cookies from, no cookies. No thank you. No thanks, Satan. Maybe Satan. Maybe today's Satan. Anyway, so we got that done. Thank you to everybody who helped with that. The Haunted Rug book chugging along. It's just chugging along. I saw 6 finished rugs today of people who have hooked something for the Haunted Rug book. I'm telling you, it's killing, it's breaking me up. It's like, it is so, I don't usually get crazy and emotional when I see people hook my stuff because it's like, it's often. This time it's different for me for some reason. I've been waiting to do this Halloween book for so long. There's something about that season, that beginning of the year, kids being back at school. Just, I feel like when you have kids the age of my kids, school starts in the fall, right? The year goes like autumn to autumn. It doesn't go like January to December. So it's just such a great time of new beginnings and all of the heat and the panic about being hot and sweaty and sunburned. For me, that's all over, as much as I like it in small doses. And it's such a happy time of year. I've just been wanting to celebrate Halloween and the autumn season in general. And we are into 120 something patterns at this point. Super bumper book for people who love, especially Halloween, but autumn in general. And the images that are coming back to me are just astonishingly great. I'm so excited. And I hope that if there's any chance on earth that you're thinking about coming to the Haunted Rug book launch event that is also a hook-in, and I ordered tea sandwiches for us. That's included in the ticket. I'm getting the swag bags ready. I'm going to have a little stall there, very little, with some of the patterns in the books. In the book and some other stuff, other books and patterns and things like that. But then 4 other vendors coming, right? Melissa Gauthier, Kirsten Gay, Haley from Loop by Loop, right? I should say Loop by Loop, and Colleen Tiefenthal, Beech Nut Studio. So that's a lot of vendors in one room. It's a small room and it's a small gathering. It's not just a friend thing, it's for you too. If there's any way that you can crawl there, right? Any way, do it. It is going to be so much fun. I am so excited, and I want everything to be perfect. And I'm just obsessing and agonizing about that book because I want it to be really perfect. Why did the neighbor give us cookies?
Because of the noise of them cleaning up the house.
Oh, well, they were making plenty of noise. See, the neighbors are making lots of... Thank you. The neighbors are making... Oh, wow. They are such nice neighbors. Keep the ones with the jam in the center. Isn't that nice? New neighbors moved in next door, and man, they have been making extraordinary amounts of noise. Cheers, my dears. There we go. But he came in, and the other landlord was like one of these landlords who lives across the country, and it's like, I'm sorry to bother you, but your tree fell down in a storm and crushed our jungle gym and could have easily killed our pets and kids. Oh, that's not my problem, right? That's not my problem. And then there's another one about to die, but this guy comes in and cuts down the tree, and he's making everything nice and finishing everything really nice. And he's living there with the tenants now, which obviously makes a great big difference. But man, he's been making so much noise. He's fixing everything all at once. But I will take the cookies in exchange for all of that inconvenience and loudness. I will definitely accept that as a gift, as an even gift to make up for all of the noise that's been happening. Linda B., happy Friday night. It's great to see you thoroughly soaked on the East Coast. Oh, is it? Is it raining out? Oh, gosh, it might be raining out. Gosh, I haven't even been outside. I thought I was going to go for a run today. That didn't happen. Yeah, it is nice to be here. We have a great episode coming at you, too. I should have said that first. I managed to pick this book up, I think, on Abe Books a little while back, a couple months ago. I remember it was extraordinarily expensive, and I thought, no way. But I had to, right? Because we look at books on this show, and in my mind, when our collection is incomplete, it drives me nuts. So when I see something that I haven't seen before, like the Gagetown Hookers, this tiny little book by Larry E. Dubord, it is obviously something that I need to have, and I couldn't find any copies of it at all anywhere else. So this is what we're looking at today. It is a super celebration of the folkiest, most primitive kind of rug hooking, my favorite kind of rug hooking. Super, super charm, right? Also stuff like that. A little risque, right? There's 2 of those in the book that I think is so sweet. They did mostly farm animals and really primitive subjects, but a couple of times I think he did his wife as a nude, which is just, I think, very romantic and sweet and a lot of fun. So we've got a lot of fun ahead of us tonight. Melissa, great to see you. It is rainy and cozy in Sackville, New Brunswick. Oh, same thing here. And I have to say, it's getting dark earlier. Did you know? I don't want to get us wound up or anything, but it's almost dark outside right now. And I don't know if that's the weather or if it's already the wheel of the year is turning that fast. Melanie, great to see you. Happy Friday night from Washington State. Bright and sunny over there. You're a few hours before us, right? So it is like still daytime and nice and bright. That's great. April, great to see you. Hello, happy cocktail night. Sorry for the frantic message earlier, but a huge yes on that subject. Our writers group, for those of you who are interested in writing a book, it's called the Writers Circle. We met twice this past week, and it is, it's geared for anybody who feels like they have a book in them. April is one of those people. And we've just been getting together and talking about our ideas out loud and, with a few other people sitting and listening and thinking, I see what you mean, but I think you can overcome that by this, or I think you should structure it this way, or I think you can move forward if you do this. And it's just a lot of really smart voices, different points of view coming together to help each other write the book. I'm not the queen bee, and I'm not in charge. In fact, I'm hoping that when I'm away next week, someone else picks up as the Zoom leader and sets up a Zoom call, because anybody's welcome to set up a Zoom call in that group. It's a Facebook group too. so you can at least find each other there whenever you want, whether I'm around or not, or whether I'm available or not, doesn't matter. I want everybody to keep going with their great book projects, and I'm really hoping that Ribbon Candy Hooking Press will publish some of those books, because this is turning into something with the magazines and the haunted rug that I'm getting to be pretty good at, I have to say, and it works really well. Works better this way, I think, than big publisher or small publisher, in my opinion. So yeah, excited about that. Also, did you see the regular book club, The Sewing Machine by Natalie Fergie? I'm so sorry, I introduced that as like an event in our Facebook group, and I just don't know how these things work, but it created a chat thread, and it was driving me crazy, so I assume if you were in it, it was driving you crazy too. And I knew I could exit, but I didn't want to exit. I wanted to kill it. So I found that impossible, and then people started posting silliness and nonsense. So I had to actually kill the event, and then I just listed, still happening at the same time, I just listed it as a post in the Facebook group pinned to the top of the page. So I hope that you saw that and found that. The book club night is not canceled. I just did not, I was panicking every time something binged, because I thought people were just hating me, going, why did you do this to us? You're making my phone make all kinds of noise, and I just didn't know how to make it end. So I just sort of reframed that event as just a plain old post. But I'm really looking forward to that too. Lena, great to see you. Happy Friday night. It is a lovely day here. Busy as anything, but it is good. I think I have to switch the glasses. Those are permanently scratched. Cheryl, great to see you. Cheers, my dears. Everyone, warm and breezy night. It is getting comfortable again, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Kaz, great to see you. Happy cocktail night in Wisconsin. It's getting cooler. It is. I mean, we decided kind of last minute to head to the Cape one more time. With the kids and everything, it's like we just have to go for one more week, because when we go, everything is still off season. I think it's my eyes, not the glasses. And there's no little unexpected country fairs or craft shows or anything like that. There's no band concert nights because it's too early. I need me a band concert, at least one in the summer. I think I need multiple. I know there's one in Chatham. I think there's one in Dennis. There's nothing that chokes me up more than seeing people stand up for the different sort of military songs, whatever they're called. When the big band does all the different branches, and people stand up, and it's all dark, and you're in your blankets, and they don't do balloons anymore, right? Because they're afraid that the balloons are going to fly over the ocean, and the sea turtles are going to get them stuck around their throats, as they do. So, but it's such a nice thing to be out there and to dance the hokey pokey. And all of that stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that this coming week. There won't be any shows this coming week. I won't be back to you until the 18th, Monday the 18th. So make sure you remember that, and feel free within our groups to connect and find each other. And remember that Kirsten has her 2 Zooms. Be looking out for those dates on Tuesday and Thursday. But I will be back with you after this week. This is the last official hurrah of summer. Catherine, great to see you. I'm so glad you're going to work on that project. Happy Friday from Record Cool, Northern Missouri. Oh, interesting. Let the cocktails flow. So true. I'm having wine tonight, just for a change. We don't really drink in this house anymore. We're trying to take it easy. Really easy. So I just get the small little ones. He goes across the street and gets them for me, which is really nice. And then he has a non-alcoholic beer. We're just trying to be a little bit healthier, So good. Karen, great to see you. Happy cocktail night from chilly and drizzly Black Forest, Colorado. Thanks to everyone who was wishing moisture over there. You desperately need it. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? And that is kind of the flip side of things. It's miserable to look out and see a dreary summer day pouring with rain, but it is all good in the end, isn't it? Joy, great to see you. Happy Friday. Olivia, happy cocktail night. Great to see you. I haven't seen you for a little while. Miserable weather in Ireland, but it's still Ireland. I can always forgive Ireland. It's just the most beautiful place. So good to hear. I'm just catching up. Now you have to dye wool fabric to match your glasses. That's right, Kaz? The blue? This morning, if you saw on Facebook, I took out some colors because I had them set aside for a future project, and I thought maybe I'll take them with me if I can match them to a project. I haven't had time to think about it yet, but I did notice I was wearing these green glasses that matched perfectly. And I suddenly felt like cha 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 cha. I just felt like everything was right in the world. Like I was just on fire because my glasses matched so well with all of my strips and my wools that I had out, and I thought something's right, right? Something's working. One thing's working. It was fun. Dave, great to see you. Dave, I loved your tomato. Can somebody do something with that dog? You know I love him. You know I love him. I love the pincushion article that you submitted. I can't wait to see that in Magpie. Joyce, great to see you, man. You killed me the other night with what you wrote. I was literally, Joyce wrote such a beautiful short piece for her part of the Halloween book, and I was at the trampoline park with Jocelyn yesterday, and I just started crying. It was so good. It was good. It felt good, but I thought, man, this is a little out of place. People are going to think there's really something wrong with me. When stars align, great to see you. Oh, great to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the positive feedback on that. And Lisa, great to see you. Happy Friday night. I don't think I've seen you for a while, but I'm so happy that you're there. Kathy, great to see you. Rain, rain, go away, period. Yeah, we're getting plenty of rain in New England this summer, that's for sure. Barbara, great to see you. Is 755 miles too far to travel for a book launch? Nope. Yeah, Barbara's coming, and that I'm so excited. There's a lot of buddies coming for the book launch, and I'm hoping we need more buddies to come. Please come, buddies, come. This is such a big deal to me. I can't even express it. I know that there'll be lots of books and lots of book parties, but for me, this is the one. This is the first one I did without an outside publisher. It's such a big deal to me, and if you can make it at all, I would so love it. I would so love it if you could. Karen says, Linda, thank you. It was awesome to wake up to fog. Liza, great to see you. Happy Friday. You always enjoy being with. Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. It's fun. It's so fun to find things to come up to share, to come up with to share. And when I just go through my studio a little bit, I find things and I go, oh, I forgot I had that, and that's such a good problem. It means that I'm hoarding stuff. But I know sooner or later that we're going to look at everything and we're going to enjoy everything together. Kathy, you got your shoelace floral. I love that pattern. I hope you enjoy that. That's so perfect for you. So let's start our evening. I have the comic if you need it. I was just touching up before we started. Jocelyn did her Hazel Hooky that is always in Magpie magazine, and this upcoming issue of the comic strip. She has just a comic strip on the game page of Magpie Times. In this episode, not to be a spoiler alert, but Hazel Hooky, who's a rug hook, bumps into her friend Petra Punch Needle. See what happens then, right? So cute. All right, so let's do this. I haven't looked at the text of this book at all yet, and I figured we'd do that together while we were on together. But let me start by bringing you to the slideshow and showing you. It's behind me, but let me show you closer up the cover of this book, and let's look at the details of this book. So, usually when we cover a book, I like it when I can say, you know what, this is the link where you can find the book. If you're loving it too and you want to hold it in your hands, here's the link. It's a little bit different with this one because this really is a hard book to find. This was published, it's very, very small. It was printed by Franklin Printing Company in Maine, and that was in 1988. The author and copyright goes to Larry E. Dubord. So this is a very small press, very small run printing, and that is the reason, I'm sure. And it's a very small book, right? And this is one of the things that worries me so much about ephemera in general, is that I think when these books kind of fall into the next person's hands, someone else's hands, I have to read what that says. Oh, Judy, great to see you. Have you dyed anything in brat green? No, I'm writing that down. No. Brat green. Brat green. I don't know the color brat green. I think of brats as sausages. Maybe that's just me. I'm going to have to look that up, Judy. That's interesting. Brat green, huh? And Dave says, my punch needle is Pamela. Maybe a cousin of Petra. Seriously, that is so funny. Pamela Punch. The reason I think it's Petra Punch is because we were looking for a very short name that was distinctive, because there's hardly any room. I'm making some, I mean, it looks like I'm being ridiculous like a school teacher, but I'm just giving her a few tips. I might be a control freak, just a little bit, but there's so little room in the cells for text that had to be a tiny little name like that. and I wanted it to be an unusual name, so it didn't seem like if I said Pam, it would seem like our buddy Pam. I was trying to think of a name that we don't say all of the time, so life didn't get too confusing. The problem with these small publications, there isn't truly a problem. They're fantastic, and I live to find this stuff. Right? If I see something like this size and this very small binding, not a staple binding, but very small binding, 41 pages all in. If I find something like this at a historical society, I get it because I know I'm not going to find it again. I know if I go home and I start having stomach cramps at 3:14 in the morning because I didn't buy it, and I log on their website and it's not there, I know I will never find it again. If I drive, it's usually like hundreds of miles away, right? It's always that scenario. Otherwise, I do drive back. But it's scary to walk away from stuff like this because you know it's going to be hard to track down in the future, and this publication is super hard to track down. So I put a lot of images in the show for us tonight as a result, because it's not actively in print, it's not easy to find, and I think that in terms of our cooking history, that this book is extremely important, and that the images that are in this book are a huge part of our shared history, and that you ought to know what pictures are in this book because it's going to be hard for you to get it. So you can always put those searches out for eBay, right? You put the search in, you say what words you're looking for, and when it pops up, and that is always such a good feeling. You get right in there and you click the button, and whew, that always feels good, but it is like, it's hardly ever, isn't it? Brat green is bright lime green. Oh, nice, nice. No, I have, and I'm guessing it's in brat green is a natural, like a natural dye that you would get, and it would be called brat green. No, I haven't. I'm gonna have to check that out. The green that is a lime green that I usually go to for my recipes is Dharma's Lime Pop. That is like my favorite green. Sometimes I go to Procam for like key lime, which is more of a yellow, or chartreuse, which is still a little too yellow for me. But my favorite of that dye family is Lime Pop from Dharma. But I'm going to have to do a little more specific research of Brat Green. Interesting. It is the in color of the younger set this year. Oh, interesting. Interesting. I Googled, yesterday I Googled, because I was looking for a theme for the pumpkins, right? The new pumpkin faces, the sugar skull pumpkins to put into Magpie. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if if I made the pumpkin faces a theme that was like unique to now? And the first thing that popped into my mind was the cat lady conversation. Let's not do that. But Barbara rightfully talked me out of that and said it's too political, even when you're joking, right, about or whatever. It's no, just hard no. So I thought no. But in the meantime, at the trampoline park, I Googled something stupid. Like tears running down my face from Joyce. I Googled something stupid like things that are in right now. And it's funny the things that are in right now, because I have not subscribed to a fashion magazine since I was in college for fashion 30 something years ago. And I know nothing, but most of the things that came up were fashion related. And it was telling me about colors and things like that. I just skimmed it because it wasn't what I wanted. But I thought, interesting. I wonder if people Google like what's in, and then they know what cut of pants to buy, if they should have really wide legs or really tight legs or super high waisted or super low waisted. No thanks, Satan. Like never again. But fashion is dictated by a handful of people, and one of my good friends is one of them. And yeah, it's just a different world, isn't it? To think that what is popular is being sort of dictated by groups of people, right, who are like in fashion. Because I think for me, I'm going to take a liberty and say for us, I think when people who are of a certain temperament and perhaps a certain age, right? I'm 52. Ow. A brat pumpkin would be fun. I don't think anybody's said that sentence to me in my life, but I think you're right. Um, you know, I think it's funny because when I think we talk about stuff that we get into, again, we see trends in rug hooking or crafts in general, particularly like old time crafts. It usually goes by that 30-year rule. Every 30 years, like architectural styles seem to come back. Definitely clothing styles, right? They might come back even more often because they come and go so quickly. But it seems to be that 30-year stretch, right? That when you hit the end of it, we're sort of, because it's still in our memory, the last 30 years, wanting to see those things again because we're feeling nostalgic. So I think it works differently for people who are a little bit older or more interested in history, or in traditional subjects. You know what I mean? Deborah says, I sure wish I could come to the party. Still working, can't get me, 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 me. I understand. I understand, really. Um, Judy says, okay. So anyway, I think the reason that this book is so scarce is because people have thrown them out, because it's small and it looks like it's maybe not that important, and it is quite important, not because of its scarcity, because of its content. So when I open this book, we've got a beautiful cover here, and let's find out together what this is going to be about. The book starts with the acknowledgement to my family, Jean, Julie, and Sarita, for your encouragement. Interesting names, because Julie is Julee, for your encouragement and interest along the way, and to Raymond and Lydia for enriching my life with your friendship. Oh man, that's good, isn't it? So this is the cover, absolutely adorable. You are going to see that the pigs, specifically the kissing pigs, are a big theme in this episode. To be continued, that was foreshadowing. So we come to on the inside cover, we see this image, right? This is the first image that we see, and I immediately get a feel for what this book is going to look like, what the artwork is going to look like in this book. When I open the page, we're right here, of special interest. Jossie, stop making noise, please, honey. And if you put your foot into the fan, your foot is going to be severed by the blades. Just saying. Just saying. Of special interest. This book contains 50 colored illustrations of rugs hooked by Raymond and Lydia Scott. Each rug is one of their original creation. Captions next to each rug might interest the reader. They reflect what the Scotts were thinking and some of their comments about the rugs. Oh, we're in for some fun here. Larry DeBoard is a Farmington, Maine antique dealer and auctioneer, and his wife Jean have collected antiques and folk art for over 30 years. Okay, so Larry is the antiques dealer, and he's the one who's written this book, and he is standing in front of this rug that says ERS. And we are talking about rugs that were hooked by Raymond and Lydia Scott. So it looks like, I'm not sure what the E is for, I bet we'll find out, but I think this is going to be a Raymond Scott rug, this sort of elongated horse. Interesting. Okay, so front cover. Okay, so the photo on the front cover is the Scotts in their backyard in Gagetown, New Brunswick in the summer of 1985. Let's look at that one more time together. That's the Scotts, 1985, Raymond and Lydia. The rug that the rug had been hooked a few weeks prior. There's two rugs, so I guess they had just hooked these two rugs. And on the back cover, we'll look at that a little bit later. Let's come back here. Nope, let's go forward one. This is a photo taken in 1952 in Summer Hill, New Brunswick. Melissa, do you know where that is? So this is the Scotts, obviously, Raymond and Lydia. They are living, let's see what we can glean. They're living on what looks like idyllic farm in New Brunswick. It looks like Lydia is driving the tractor. Is that the right word? Beautiful picture of a couple that I just got a very fleeting impression as I flipped through the book to prepare this episode. This looks like a couple who were so in love and did a lot of stuff together. Really, the romantic ideal, right? What life is supposed to be about, having someone who you really love doing your stuff with. You can see that this works on many levels for the Scotts. Now, flipping over to the next page, we're just at the table of contents. And the table of contents is broken into the acknowledgments, which we read, of special interest, which we read, and then the illustrations, which are the bulk of the book, and that's pretty much it. Then we get to the Scotts and the rugs, right? And that's it. It's a very small, synthesized table of contents. Melissa says, "Oh wow, I do know where Gagetown is. Oh man, this is going to be fun." So this one, the first pig rug hooked by the Scotts. This is it. They claimed all the pigs were all well fed, and this pig is living proof. I guess so. That is a chubby looking pig. That is a cow pig. Really, so okay, so what I'm finding here is this is their first pig rug. It didn't say it was their first rug, if you noticed, but this is their first pig rug, and this is going to be a big theme for them, the pigs. So again, I haven't looked at the text of this book. We're going to do that, excuse me, together. But this is a really primitive composition. And there's a few things I want to point out here that are interesting, because these rugs came at a time when primitive folk art, right, was making a huge renaissance. I'm trying to think of the name of Will Moses. No, not Will Moses. Help me out. The artist who did a lot of primitive stuff, a lot of animals sort of oversized that just barely fit in the frame, exaggerated features, lots of rabbits. Do you know who I mean? Oh, Gail, good morning, my love. Happy coffee time for you. I know it'll come to me. It'll probably come to me in a minute. But a very well-known artist, at least in the U.S., did a lot of folk art, particularly farmyard animals, that kind of thing. This reminds me of that, and I don't know the timeline. I don't know how they overlap or if they have anything to do with each other. But one of the really striking things for me about this composition is the shape of the pig, right? It's inflated. He looks like a dirigible. It's a beautiful shape. It's a simplified shape. But it's a correct shape. If you look at the way the legs are, it's anatomically a fantastic, though stylized pig. And he is really almost breaking the border. Like he's touching the border on the bottom, and he's a hair away from touching the top border. He just fits. It adds to the feeling that it's a big fat pig, doesn't it? I somehow I prefer compositions like this when they don't have the horizon line. And in this case, the horizon line is like higher on the left than it is on the right. So that distracts me a little bit. But I do love the composition. I love the basic pig. And I love the way that they immediately start signing. Again, I think that this is Raymond, because there's an R. But I love the way the signature is a big part of the composition, right? Really, really staking your claim here and saying, I'm going to make some rugs. And while, during the course of my career of rug making, you're going to see my signature, and it's going to look like this. So you're going to be able to recognize my work without a doubt. Yes, I am. Judy, I am thinking about Warren Kimball. I absolutely am. Thank you so much. That's it. Had to take a sip to celebrate your intelligence there. Good job. It's just a great composition. It's super simple, and this is what we can expect to see lots of in these rugs. Now, the caption for this one says, Raymond claims he counts pigs jumping over a fence when he has trouble getting to sleep. Adorable, rather than sheep, right? Pigs. So this must be specifically a pig farm, do you think? Yeah. Adorable. Again, the form is fantastic. These are primitive and naive compositions, right? Meaning that there's no emphasis on perspective or proportion or reality, right? But nonetheless, these are insanely well executed rugs. What is left out is almost as important as what's there. So we're looking at a pig that could really be a stencil. It could be three of the same pig, not so much the legs, but the shape and the size, right? They're almost interchangeable, but the fact that the legs are doing something different, and we can see that, really gives a lot of action to this piece. It's important, right? We're not just seeing static figures of here's a lumpy pig and here's another lumpy pig. One pig is jumping and his legs reflect that energy, and the pig in front of him is moving on. He's getting out of the way. I think that's really interesting, and I think that's really important, because those small little, notables really are the difference between realizing that you're looking at a rug that has financial value and collectible value, and looking at a rug that's just really cute and came out well. You know what I mean? So we're also seeing in this rug the beginning of the sawtooth pattern, which is a big thing. I think once they figured out about doing the sawtooth border, they realized that they loved it and they wanted to do a ton more of it. So we're seeing sawtooth here, and you're going to see a lot more sawtooth as the episode goes on. So I'm going to read the foreword to you as we come into it here. Let's see. During the let's see what we can find out. Let me just do one of these. What a day, man. What a day. During the 1970s, hooked rugs in the Canadian Maritimes were probably as plentiful and inexpensive as depression glass was in New England in the 1960s. That's a great analogy, still now. Just about every Canadian home had a few rugs scattered throughout the house. Canadians had been selling their rugs since the 20s, and we know that from looking at our W.W. Kent books and hearing firsthand about his travels through Canada knocking on doors. Hello, do you have any rugs inside? Can I buy them? Right? Well, haven't we loved those? I've loved those episodes so much. We'll do more of that in the future. Uh, Canadians have been selling their rugs since the 20s. Regardless, they were still considered common 50 years later, as there never was a strong demand for them until around 1980. Many of the rugs were original designs that were drawn on burlap, while others were copied from pictures and books. Manufacturers from both Canada and the US had supplied backs for rugs with a stamped design, in other words, commercial patterns. Many of these patterned rugs were copied and today are mistaken for original designs. Well, they especially are by stupid people, particularly those who run auctions and write things that are absolutely not true in auctions. I meant to tell you and I forgot. I hate calling people out on stupid stuff, but there was quite an expensive auction that was running this week, and uh, there was an image of there was a replica of the famous embroidered rug of the Victorian period. You know, the huge one that we've talked about many times. What was her name like? Let me see if I can find it. Not that it doesn't matter. I'll leave it. I'm putting on a second pair of glasses. Like it was like Kazula, Zula, Zalua, something like that, and two surnames. Do you remember the story? We did this on Coffee Time. It was this one unmarried woman, right? Yet unmarried woman, who made this rug of insane proportions for her house and meant to have it for her future home. And it was almost like a Baltimore album quilt because it included independent squares that were not cohesive, but it functioned like an album quilt, except it was a rug, and it was embroidered. It wasn't needlepoint; it was embroidered with like a variety of stitches. So I suppose it could be needlepoint, but there were some like fine yarns used in there too. It wasn't wool, right? So the blue cat, I think, was the most distinctive image that was in it. If you remember this, sorry. Teddy calling me. He forgets I'm running a live show. He'll make his way down, I'm sure. Sorry, I'm going to put that on silent. Anyway, somebody was selling a replica because there have been patterns made because the rug is out of copyright. An auction house was selling it as an original 19th century rug, and by the time I noticed it, which was just a fluke, tons of people had bid on it, and I think thinking it was a 19th century rug. Now, I don't know, but I think that auction house is at risk of getting in a lot of trouble because they put forward a hooked rug that was a 19th century rug that was probably a 2000s rug, right? It's probably a 2010 rug, all in, right? So you have to be careful. And this point that Larry is making in this book, this was already happening decades ago, that rugs are misattributed because people are copying original designs, commercial designs, whatever, and nobody knows the difference, right? And I don't know the difference. Some rugs, yes. Other rugs, your guess is as good as mine. Our collective guesses are as good as anybody's, right? Anyway, so he's talking in the foreword about that problem, not knowing what patterns are copyrighted and belong to a specific copyright is not really a thing. The conversation is starting about rug hooking and copywriting right around the time that this book is written. But yeah, certainly in the decades leading up to the 1980s, right, when this book came out in '88, there was a lot of confusion, and there still is, about specific patterns. So the majority of the rugs that existed, right, in Canada at this time, were geometric, floral, or scenic, possibly animal designs. Large room-sized rugs were usually floral or geometric. Of course they were, right, because they'd be done in a hurry, right? And that you wouldn't have a lot of any one color, so there wouldn't be a color plan. That wasn't an option. Most rugs were scatter-sized rugs, smaller rugs that were more manageable for thresholds, right, for entering the room. Materials, bedsides, right, keeping things warm. Materials ranged from cotton and wool rugs to wool yarn and woolen fabrics. Since the Industrial Revolution was slower coming to Canada than the United States, sorry, I feel I have a stuffy nose. Everything's fine, just weird. Rug hooking there lasted about 20 years longer. Bartering was, and we know this from the Grenfell episodes that we've done on the show, bartering was very, very common. And a lot of people were bartered out of rugs in really unfair trades. People taking hooked rugs for absolutely nothing and selling them for huge amounts of money, right? We know this story. That's a side story. So one old-time Canadian dealer told me he often had 1,000 rugs on hand in his inventory. His customers were limited in number, but his orders were usually large ones. He showed me a single sales receipt to a Boston merchant for 1,600 scatter-sized hooked rugs. According to common practice in the 60s, and this is the 1960s, most were sold at approximately the same price, regardless of subject, colors, or condition. In 1978, I bought my first antique Canadian hooked rugs from Murray Stewart, a knowledgeable and well respected Nova Scotia antiques dealer. He had a nice selection of rugs at bargain prices. Within a few months, I was buying anywhere from 25 to 100 rugs. I know that feeling. From dealers and pickers while traveling through the Maritimes every 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know that feeling. That's excessive. It was relatively easy at the time to buy up large amounts of quality rugs. The New England marketplace was eager to buy them. In England is capitalized, but new isn't, so that's probably a typo because I think it's New England, not England. Often some of these rugs changed hands quickly, and soon many of them were sold off as American hooked rugs. It is commonplace today for Canadian mats to be sold as native hooked mats at major auctions in New England. So this is dated information, right? Most auction houses, despite the story I just told you, most auction houses know what they've got and what they've got going. Let me catch up on. Gail says, I love pigs. We had 900 of them. Oh my God, lots of work. Barbara says, pig looks like a bleach bottle. It really does, doesn't it? If I remember correctly, he was the hooker. She did the colors. Oh, interesting. I'm sure you're right. I haven't gotten there yet. Interesting. He was the hooker. I figured they both hooked because they're so prolific. Holy moly's. All right. I'm just going to, let me just eyeball this really quick while we take a quick sippy. By 1981, rug prices had increased tremendously. Many increased 5 to 10 times their value in 2 short years. Dealers started overpricing their rugs because of the uncertainty of their value. Some kept their best rugs for consignments to auctions, while others started exploring the New England market by exhibiting at shows or flea markets. Of course, some dealers started keeping for their own collections the best rugs that they bought. Going into the Maritimes looking for hooked rugs now is quite different than a decade ago. And of course, even more different nowadays, right? Okay, let me just finish scanning. Canadians are now, 1988, Canadians are now reluctant to sell their rugs as many are being kept as family heirlooms. Many dealers coming into the market during the last few years considered hooked rugs a scarce commodity. Therefore, they're pricing their rugs high. So this is fairly dated information, so I'm going to skip over this. But it seems to me like the sort of introduction to the book is from Larry, and he is an antiques dealer. So he's talking about his experience as an antiques dealer and his approach to the hooked rug market. Right. This is educational and useful for us to know. I think he's going to go even further with this and tell us specifically where the link comes between him and the Scots. But so far, he's just giving us like a background view of where the rug hooking market was in Canada and New England it sounds like the early 1980s. Judy says, I'd be prolific too if somebody kept my house, fed me, and prepped all of my wool. Absolutely, right? That's so true, isn't it? Oh, it's so true. So, all right, so let's come back over here and see some of the other rugs that are in the first pages. I'm sorry, I sound so stuffy. I can't get rid of the feeling. Oh, so this was right there at the beginning. So this just simply says, girl enjoying the company of her dog while holding some colorful balloons. Now, I have to say, this is really unusual because, you know, for the most part, this book is loaded with images that are specifically farm animals. And I'm guessing it's because they sold well. For me, I think this is my favorite image in the book. It's not necessarily my favorite color plan, but it is my favorite image. It is so good. I just love it. You know, the feel of the girl really reminds me of children's book illustration in the 1960s. So that's not surprising, right? Because if you think about it, this would have been if this was done by Raymond. He would have been looking at children's books right around that time or a little bit sooner, or maybe if they had kids right around that time. But it really does have that feeling of the 1960s and early 1970s art, particularly in children's books and poster illustration, all that stuff. But just a super stylized, oversized bow, right? Almost looks like Elizabethan costume. But this comes back to our conversation about how every 30 years you get a renaissance in style. Well, this costume is one of them. Some of the things I feel are working great here, others less great. I think the dog is a little bit weak as a subject just because I love seeing multicolored hooked fabric. And I guess if I look at it long enough, it's going to grow on me in a big way. It's very multi, isn't it? And I'm kind of losing the expression on the dog's face. I think I see a small smile, a little ear, a little white eye, and a jawline. And then, of course, the hind legs and the separation of the legs. That's all we really need. He immediately reads, and of course, this is a picture of a picture. He immediately reads as a little non-distinct, but nothing against the rug. It's just the girl is so strong. I'd almost prefer to have nothing else in the composition. She's so strong on her own. There is a bit of weirdness about how her skirt lands and how her legs are a little bit to the left, like they're a hair to the left. It reminds me of those books growing up that you would flip down. They would have like maybe 3 or 4 cuts in the pages across, and you would flip to whatever head you chose, then flip to whatever bust you chose, then flip to whatever hips, then flip to whatever legs, or maybe shoes. Do you know what I mean? It reminds me of that because the legs are kind of a little bit to the left. You know what I mean? Like the page isn't lined up right, and that is so charming to me. I love that. I love that there are some leaves on the ground, not flowers, but what look like leaves. It's so smart. It's such a great composition. The fact that the girl looks a bit melancholy, right, and she doesn't have like a stupid grin, I love that too. There are some technical things happening here which I think make it great folk art. One of those things is the use of the mixed, the plaid, right, the textured plaid or the printed plaid in the dog. It makes it a little bit hard to read the dog. We could use, I feel, a few more lines. I'm just basic, right, basic. I still really like it, but the dog distracts me a little, and the cutoff balloon distracts me a little bit. I kind of wish the balloon broke the border. That's all. Otherwise, this is one of my favorite rugs of all time. I still think it is a phenomenal rug, an interesting rug, and a super successful rug. If this came to auction, I would be losing my mind selling stuff. I would be selling stuff. I would be going through my jewelry as if I have anything that's worth selling. I would want this rug desperately, right? Even though there are some things about it that I feel like, oh, I wish that was tweaked a little bit different. You know what I mean? Folk art. This one is another great image of a youngster, another child in this composition. Youngster walking his horse to pasture. Looking at the horse's large head gives the rug a folky appearance. It does. That's a great observation because when you see things that are out of proportion, you can either say this is bad or you can say this is folk art, right? You have to choose. For me, 100% of the time I will say this is folk art. There are some great things going on here. The texture wool is super successful here. Again, there are elongated parts to the anatomy of the horse. I thought it was a donkey because of the ears, but it's a horse. Elongated neck, right? Stretched neck, just like the first image that we saw. I think that's really interesting. Just the incongruity of size between the little boy, right, and the horse, it probably is quite realistic, right, when you think about it. What's throwing it size-wise is the horse's head, right? Just as the author says, Larry says, it's a big head. Boy, that's a big head. But there's something sweet about the action of the boy. He's not looking at you dead on. He's pulling the horse. The horse is stopped, stubbornly stopped and looking at us, but the boy is actively trying to pull the horse along, and it looks like he's not successful because the horse is stationary. His legs are not moving. There's some storytelling going on here. There's something cute, a relationship between the lack of success of the little boy taking the horse wherever he's taking him, to pasture, to pasture, I guess. I was going to say to market, but it says to pasture. So interesting bit of storytelling. All of these details are important. The black outlining is fantastic and successful. It's just a great piece. Karen said the top balloon, Karen's talking about the last image. Let's come back here. The top balloon looks too much like the tree to the right. It does. There is a slight technical problem with the tree and the balloon. because they're similar, and they're both similar to the dog, right? So we have, it's just a bit of a lumpy dog, but I still love this piece. When I look at this piece, I hold my hand up and block out the dog, and I love it even more because it's an almost perfect piece, right? Almost perfect. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it better not be perfect, or it's not going to be my favorite piece in any world. But small things like you notice the branches of the trees on the right, and then there are no branches on the left. There are some incongruities that are interesting. The fact that the balloon is cut off is because there's a black border, right? There is a. Are you coming onto the show? Oh, she's going into the art closet behind the green screen. There is a black border. Now remember from the earlier images, they do stuff with black borders. So the black border is here even though the background is black. And our eye immediately gets what they're doing. Okay, it's cut off because there's a border there, right? It's not going right out to the edge. But it would have, if I were to do this piece myself, I think I would do it with, for example, a mustard yellow border or a cobalt blue border. Keep the other colors the same, maybe put some more leaves on the ground. I'm wondering why the girl is frowning in this composition, because she's with her dog who's smiling. And again, there is a sort of mismatch between the two figures in the piece. The girl and the dog are not harmonious. The dog is smiling, the girl is frowning. It's the same sort of setup as the next piece, where the boy is in motion and the horse is stalled, right? There's some kind of weird action in the contrast, right? There's some beautiful hooking happening here too. Oh, Wendy, great to see you. Happy Friday night. Kathy says, I like the way he incorporates the initials into the piece. Absolutely. Yeah, they're very different here, but he's got them embedded in the corners. Unusual spot, too. And it makes it interesting. I wonder if at one point he settled on where exactly and how. Well, I think he did. I think this is the answer. Now, wait a minute. Oh, that's an R. I thought that was an A. Okay. Wait a minute. I'm confused now because it says either A or L. A-L, because we're talking about Raymond Scott. Oh, maybe it's Raymond and Lydia. Maybe it's R and L. Okay, that makes the most sense, doesn't it? Let me see what this rug says. Lydia wanted a rug with a lot of activity, and this one certainly has it. The inconspicuous mouse adds a nice touch. Oh, he does add a nice touch. He does. So, at this point, I've read you the text. We're caught up text-wise here. Yeah, you're right, Kathy, in that last image. I was thinking that too, that it might be a tree because it's the same material. It's very hard to tell, and I guess part of the mystique of folk art is that you just don't know. And maybe we shouldn't talk in such detail about primitive pieces, because the beauty of folk art is the big question mark, right? I know, it's true, Karen. The horse in the last one looks like he's saying, "Are you kidding? I'm not going to pasture. I'm standing right here." Now, this is an interesting one. It's funny that Lydia wanted a piece that was more busy. This has got a lot going on in it. We've got a bird on a branch. We've got a rooster. It looks like under the branch there are some berries. A little bit of confusion there with the darkness under the berries. Maybe that's a leaf. It's coming very close to the rooster's head. And because it's the same color, it's almost like a thought bubble. You see what I mean? It's a very cool piece, though. We've got a bit of a squared oval within a square. I love the expression on the cow, the little cat playing with a ball of yarn, and the one element in the fish jumping is excellent. It looks like there's a bunny or something with its back to us. A little bit of greenery or a cattail coming up out of the pond. Very smart. The best part of this piece, well, for me, I like the mouse. It reminds me of the Mouse Man, that British wood carver. Who's referred to as the Mouse Man, and it's all of it. You see this on Antiques Roadshow. All of the pieces he's done, he carves a little mouse into it, and they're super valuable and collectible. And what a find! To me, this looks like a visit from the silhouette of the Mouse Man running across the composition, not outlined, right? Not important, right? Very small part of the design, but helping a lot. Because he's running in the opposite way of some of the other characters. It helps that some characters are pointing right, others left. The best part of this composition is the pig. So it's very clear to me already that I'm guessing this is a pig farm. Maybe we find out it's becoming clear that they know they're pigs, right? And when we see a pig, the pig is going to be the best articulated, the best shaped form or motif in the rug. And this is no exception. This is very cool. It is a really different, very busy composition, but filled with a lot of motifs, a lot of storytelling here. Primary colors again. I'd be curious to know what materials they're finding and using. Maybe that's something we find out. Very different than the past ones. This is very different yet. First fish rug they ever attempted. And again, it looks like it says R and L. A beauty of a salmon. The last rug by the Scots before the book was printed. So this was the last one before this book I'm holding was printed. So this has gone a little bit further, and they have come up with some new tricks, right? So the contrast between the last one with all of the figures, very stilted, very flat, and this one are very different. We are still looking at folk art for sure, but we are looking at some color choices and shading that is a little bit more evolved. Doesn't mean it's better. It just means it's different. It's a different style. They apparently did a lot of rugs, right? By just judging from this one book, they did a lot. And it would make sense that they would change styles and evolve as they went. So this is a salmon jumping. It's a great action shot. It's a very appealing composition. They are doing something that they did with their very first rug, which is almost touching the border, right? They are not framing things. There's a lot of negative space in the background, but they are not framing things in such a way that it's like picture postcard perfect, snapshot. The back of the fish is actually touching the top border. This is a fair no-no with composition because it becomes confusing when two motifs, the border and this motif, are merged. The shape becomes harder to read. In this case, I think we're just fine. But in general, composition terms, art theory, it's not a good thing to have the border be touching something. Overlapping, yes. Just grazing, very bad. And yet, this works really well, and it adds to that sort of feel that this is all folk art that we're looking at. The border has changed as well. We are not looking at a sawtooth border. We're not looking at a super basic border. We're looking at a border with a little bit of a hit or miss fill, but a little bit of a shimmy wave to it. It's really colorful. It's simple, but it's colorful. It has the postage stamp corners. It's very well executed. It brings a lot of color to a composition that otherwise would really be suffering from not enough color to be super interesting to a lot of people. The ripples in the water give it such great motion. The background color is just beautiful. Sometimes when you have a background fill and it's a large background and you have a gray or you have a brown, not everybody's going to like that shade, right? It's like, ooh, that's a lot of gray. Even, ooh, that's a lot of black. But in this case, it's almost like a robin's egg blue. And it's hard not to like this color, right? It's not really the color of water, but it is a very likable color. Oh, Deborah said, I think she's sad because the balloon flew away. Okay, I've been following this conversation. Let's come back. I love it when we do our own storytelling. Okay. I see. So, Judy, I noticed you said, but there are 4 balloon strings. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yep, I see. This is confusing. And Karen said the horse. Okay. Yeah, it is hard to tell. It could be that the balloon is flying away, and she's sad. It seems like if she would just focus on catching it, she would yet have a chance. But I see what you mean. It does look like she might have lost the balloon. It's interesting. This is just an interesting conversation in and of itself because the fact that we're talking about how many balloon strings there are and why she has a miserable look on her face means that we're looking at folk art, right? It means, more generally, it means we're looking at art. The fact that we could look at it long enough that we'd be interested enough to think on it, and then we would be sort of debating it between ourselves, means that this really is good art. Right? It's folk art. It's really good folk art. It's not just folk art. And there's the proof in the pudding right there. So I'm going to move on from the salmon, but man, this really is different. Let's just keep in mind that was the last rug. Now, I'm reading the text. Numerous dealers coming into the market during the last few years considered hooked rugs a scarce commodity. I'm going to skip over that bit again because I think we're talking about something that's a bit dated, information that's a little bit dated. Here's the caption for this unusual piece. This nude appears to be in a seductive pose. She's doing a bit of a shh or something, or ooh la la or something like that. It looks as if someone caught her eye as she puts down her book. I always read while I'm nude, right? Don't you? Just kidding. It is a bit seductive. It is a bit sexy. The fact that there's a second nude on the back cover uh, is interesting to me because it just reminds me this. I don't know if this rug went to market or not, uh, but it seems to be a slightly more personal subject. It is a bit of a at-home still life. I think it's just beautiful. If I'm not saying that it is, but if this is Lydia, I think it's just beautiful that she would be regarded as a subject while she's sitting around reading her book, right? We don't see enough nudes in fiber arts, right? That was a weird sentence, but it's true. We don't see enough nudes. We really don't. As subjects, we are all buttoned up, right? Always. We are all buttoned up, and I think that's because traditionally, as makers, we are all buttoned up, right? We're getting a little bit away from that now. Everybody's loosening up a little bit, I think, for the most part. And, thank goodness there's a yin and a yang, and some of us are and some of us aren't. But this is an unexpected subject for most people because we don't see a lot of nudes in rug hooking. And I think it's fantastic that this is done the way that it is. It almost reminds me of like a pin-up. You often see, there's a deliberate attempt to not see anything but boobies, right? We're not seeing anything south of the border. So you typically see this kind of a pose in pin-ups of mid-century era. Because some things are printable and some things obviously are not. We're getting into some dicey area here, but you know what I mean. So interesting again. It's a very minimalist composition. It's really beautiful. It's very bare, no pun intended. The most interesting thing for me is the fact that she seems to be leaning seductively onto her arm, like, come on, sailor kind of thing. And then gesturing with the hand, because hands are hard. So why bother to do the hand? It looks like she's doing a shh or something like that, or she's got her fingers up near her chin, considering the prospect. So I think that's interesting. I think that's really quite beautiful. The fact that the belly button is seen as, if the nipples, sorry, are a red tone, more of a flesh tone than a black, then the belly button is seen that way too, which I think is interesting because I think I'm a belly button in black person. I think of it as a shadow, but I think a man would think of it as a more erotic part of the body. Okay, we better stop. But you see what I mean? That's an interesting aspect of the rug for me. The fact that the book breaks the border, she's put the book aside, she's taken the glasses off. We're going to stop, right? But this is, I think, one of the more interesting subjects and compositions. I think it's a fantastic composition. I think she is leaning onto her arm, and I think it's done in a very folky way, right? These are not trained artists that we're talking about. I think it's probably mimicking something that is seen in a magazine, like leaning in, and the seductive lean looks a little Quasimodo to me, but is still, you get the gist of it. The crossed legs look very elegant, right? In contrast, they look very sort of sexy and elegant. It's just a beautiful piece, very, very unexpected. Yeah, Judy says the glasses give it a really personal feeling somehow. It really does, because it's like, it's not just the idea of taking stuff off, right? That ship has sailed. Everything is off. But, it's like the idea of having put down the glasses and put down the book. There is a moment of consideration happening here. And the subject seems to be engaged with someone else in the room. She's not looking at us. And then there is this moment of consideration. And it's not a moment of surprise or being ashamed or having been surprised. It's consideration, right? So there's a remarkable amount of storytelling in all of these rugs. For such simple rugs, you have to admit, there's a lot of stuff in here that goes beyond just, oh, isn't that a nice rug of a pig, right? There's a lot more here than we can sometimes pick out. We always pick stuff out of every rug, right? Because all of us, I think, appreciate oh, here comes the rain, every rug, right? These are really a cut above. There's a lot more, and I agree with you, Judy. The fact that the glasses are off is personal, right? The glasses, it's a generational thing, but can be viewed as an imperfection, right? I wear them, it's a sign of age. Either you don't have perfect sight when you're a gorgeous young girl, or as an older person, it's a sign of aging. So it's interesting and very literal to keep the glasses in the composition. Doesn't have, I mean, as opposed to, for example, a wine glass or a little area carpet or a curled up animal, right? It adds more, it's something that belongs to the person. And it's one thing that we're seeing discarded. So, well, the book is number two, but as far as something that you wear, it's the only thing that we're seeing discarded. So it is such an interesting piece. We could talk about that for a whole show, I think, but we better not because there's so many more pieces in here. I'm not showing you all of the pieces in here. On the off chance and on the hope that you will also find this book in the future, I want to leave you some surprises, but we're looking at a lot of images here tonight. Now, the caption on this says, a real favorite with customers are the famous Scott kissing pigs. So we have seen the pigs. We have seen and loved the pigs. And at one point, and I don't know when, and I don't know if Larry knows, they decided to position the pigs in such a way that they are kissing. And I guess that this became popular and something of the Scots, right? Kissing pigs. Oh, that must be Raymond and Lydia Scott. So this is interesting because this is such a strong composition. This is absolutely perfect for them, right? They obviously have a lot of pigs, right? I'm again guessing this is a pig farm, but I don't know much more about them yet. The fact of their flat snouts, the fact that it makes a perfect jigsaw if the snouts are touching, that's smart. There's something very Escher about the artist Escher about the pigs touching, the continuation of the line of the lips. There is a slight smile on the pig on the right, right? Somehow she looks more female. I don't know why, but she does. The exaggerated curl of the piggly tail there, the long ears, right? Very alert, right? They know what they're doing, very conscious. The asymmetry of the patches. Also look at the hooking. We're not really talking about technical stuff. We're talking about composition tonight. But if you look at the way that the negative space underneath the kissing snouts has been done in an echo style, right? The hooking has been done in an echo around fill is interesting to know because it just gives us another window into the way that presumably Raymond worked. This piece is not signed, right? So kissing pigs. Kissing pigs are apparently a thing that will continue. This is their first rug with kissing pigs, and it is on an angle. And I tried to angle it more with an app. So this is the best I can get it because the picture in the book is quite slanted. The caption says, it is undoubtedly their most colorful one also. Well, it's their most colorful of kissing pigs. It's not their most colorful rugs, and we're about to see that. So there is a distinction there. But interesting that they were repeating the kissing pigs, and there became a question of color or no color, black and white, how many colors do you want? Interesting. And I think it is a case of, I'm going to come back to you for a second. Cheers, my dears. I think it is a case of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If these kissing pigs rugs are selling, might as well make a lot more, right? It seems like there were a lot of kissing pigs rugs. That's a bit of a tongue twister there over the years. But this is the first one that was in color, and we are looking at it. So that is our history right there. Coming to something really different, and these are rugs that I normally skip over, but in this case I can't. This is the Scott farm at Summer Hill. The two telephone poles to the right of the dirt road are a typical country trademark. This is interesting because this is not a great composition, and it has a super hit or miss fill in the center, the grass, and border, right? But the fact that this is actually their farm, right, their homestead, is significant, right? So I wanted to show this because sometimes landscapes with blocky, primitive buildings make me tired. They're not my favorite genre, right? And we all can like different things, right? But the fact that this one, for me, it falls into that category still. But the fact that this is actually their property makes it an important view. And the fact that they kept in the telephone poles is interesting. Because in a primitive composition like this, we aren't seeing animals, we aren't seeing vehicles, we aren't seeing anything extra. We are just seeing the bare bones of the landscape. but including the telephone poles. Makes me wonder if it was like a prestige thing to know that there are telephone poles and there is electricity being run out to the farm. I don't know. But it's more curious to me that they were left in. It would be a much more predictable sight to me if they were left out. So curiouser and curiouser. This rug shows the steam-generated mill once owned by Lydia's father. The mill was built in 1909, the year that Lydia was born. Raymond worked there, and this is where their courtship began. So while this looks like a clumpy chunk of gray, this actually is a very romantic picture, because this is Lydia's family history. This is where Raymond worked, and this is where their courtship began. This is where they met. This is where I'm sure they bumped into each other and chatted. Right? This is where the story begins. This is fair. This is really beautiful and special, having an image like this. It is very well done. Hit or miss border again, very similar to the one before it, and similar to the one that you're about to see, this one here. Little Red Schoolhouse in White's Cove, New Brunswick. The building has been converted into a gift shop, the place where the Scots consigned their first rugs. Oh, interesting. Oh, interesting. Melissa, I wonder how much of this is researchable. That's really interesting. So they converted the little schoolhouse, which must have been on their property, or maybe they bought it or leased it, into a place where they could sell their first rugs. That really is interesting. It looks like there's a little flagpole over on the right, a pretty big green evergreen tree, a couple of layers of water, and a road right in. It looks like a road with a traffic line right in front. So these are all scenes. While they might not be the most memorable compositions, they would have been to the Scots, because these are all celebrate the moments of your life scenes for them, right? These are all really meaningful landscapes for them. Let me see what else I have. I'm skipping over some of them. Hungry rabbits enjoying an afternoon snack in the neighborhood garden. However, they appear alert and on the lookout. They do. All these little forest critters always look alert, don't they? They look like they never rest and relax. But they have got a hold of some carrots, and that must be a good thing. You'll notice with a lot of the Scots rugs that they work in multiples. Multiples work really well from them. If they were ever looking at the rugs of Garrett Bluenose or Edward Sands Frost or any of the early rug hooking commercial patterns, they would be seeing things in multiples. One in the center, two on the sides. It's a very common motif, or something in silhouette, right? One or the other. So this serves as a multiples composition, as a trio. We've got bookends on the side and a different colored character in the center. And the fact that they've got a hold of some carrots is exciting. It makes you feel good, makes you feel happy for them. But another very simple and primitive composition, something from daily life. They must have known that people would like these kinds of compositions from daily life, that they would treasure scenes that were familiar, recognizable, that they could relate to. And I think the fact that we're looking at these kinds of subjects means that these rugs must have been selling. I'm showing you the next spread just for contrast here. So, for example, on the top left, the coastal scene enjoyed by Canadians and tourists alike. It's a classic lighthouse and sailboat scene, right out on a little rock jetty. Picturesque scene with lighthouse and colorful rocky shoreline. Perfect. What's different about this piece? First of all, you see how much they like this border, this irregular border, with this kind of sunburst hit or miss. This is really unusual. Really unusual. We do see this more now, but we didn't see a lot of this in the 1980s, that's for sure. We didn't see a lot of this in antique rugs either. This is a fairly contemporary, out on a limb kind of a composition. When you see a border that's this large and has this much activity and color change happening in the border, it can be regarded as very distracting, but in the context of folk art, I think it's really successful. The thing about the one on the top left, the subjects, again, are getting very close to the border. Both the lighthouse and the boat are very close to that top border. There continues to be, I'm not going to say a problem, because it is, I think, a conscious decision. Something about the way that the compositions are laid out, that the border seems to be not regarded as an issue. Let's just put it that way. Because I don't think it's wrong that they're touching. It's just in terms of art, again, art theory, those kinds of compositions can be distracting because when you look at that lighthouse, you stop and you get stuck because it's stuck on the top border. The boat has a little more energy. It seems like the little flag on top is moving. It seems like it's moving at a clip. I think the thing that gives this composition the most energy are all of those measured lines in the background. That is really smart. Do you see that a lot? Because I can't say I've seen that a lot at all. You see lines that are going out, in terms of perspective, getting smaller and smaller and closer together and unreadable. But this is a very measured pattern of lines. It's very flat. It's super unrealistic, but it makes a lot of sense in the context of a folk composition. I think it's actually fantastic, and I'm really surprised that more people don't do that trick. It gives the fact that they're not straight lines gives a lot of energy and motion to that boat. The lighthouse is pretty stuck between the rocks and the border, but that boat is on the move, isn't it? Down below on the bottom left, the rising sun, a country cabin, and a flowing stream add a little nostalgia to this rug. Very basic composition, things a Canadian might want to see in their rug. A little stream that's traveling out to the sort of point of no return, right? We've got point on the horizon. We've got what's called the vanishing point, disappearing out there. It almost seems like they were looking at art or reading about art and learning about composition tricks, and maybe they learned about a vanishing point. The thing is, it's vanishing before the horizon line, which is literally incorrect. But because it's folk art, there is just a get out of jail free card, right? For everything, everything gets the card. So that's all okay. It's very flat. It's very pretty. I think it's still really appealing with that dip, very contrived dip in the center with the sun or moon peeking out. It has a really dusky look to it. For what the piece lacks in composition, it makes up in atmosphere. It seems like a dusky evening scene or a very early morning scene where it's more dark than dawn. And I think that's interesting because I'm not really understanding how they're getting that great quality of light, that in between kind of twilight quality, because the art itself is not really elevated, is it? Like all, to be honest. But there are aspects of every piece that are exceptionally strong and very surprising. I don't think we've seen one piece yet where I'm struggling to say something positive about it. This piece has that sort of a filmy layer of atmosphere to it. There's a chunky building, right? It's like a lean-to kind of a building. There's a cutoff fence. There's some lovely evergreens, and the evergreens really are lovely in their shape. But it really is that cast to it, that color cast to this piece that makes it so elusive, right? Hard to pin down. I didn't put the next. I skipped over a piece. Oh, I'm sorry. The top right. There we go. The top right. Aggressive mouse chasing timid family cat. The multicolored border gives it a nice look. Yeah. The multicolored border is a Scott family thing, and it's fantastic. I love the cat in silhouette. They've got the anatomy right. It's so strange, but they've got it right. The hind legs of the cat, the tail shooting off diagonally the way that it does when the cat is all upset, It's hard to tell whether the cat's looking over its shoulder at the mouse or just running away. You can see the definition in the little butt cheeks, right? You see that one little dark line? Yes, I said butt cheeks. I'm being questioned about that. The textured wool, right, making the body of the cat up is in this case, I think, perfect. The graphic outlining in black is helping that along. It's just perfect. The shape of the cat is perfect. They know what animals look like. There's no question in every pose. And the mouse is a little less believable because his legs, hey, a mouse runs fast. You don't get a lot of chances to take in the information about how his little legs work. A mouse runs fast, but he's running apparently after the cat. Something's gone down, right? Interesting again that the mouse is touching the border, right? They are not trying to keep their subjects inside the border. They have it not breaking the border, touching the border. This is a Scots thing. If you are going to make a rug that you want to be in the style of Lydia and Raymond Scott, I think you have to have something touching the border uncomfortably. I think you have to, because we're already seeing, I think the starburst border, again, is another great trope. Down below, bottom right, name rugs have always been popular. Here the Scots have chosen a popular old-fashioned name. Very, very sweet. Looks like rose hips, or I don't think pumpkins, maybe little buds or something around the border, but Sarah, right? For maybe Sarah's bedside. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. I want to come back to you here. Let's remember we're on rug number 91, image number 91. Judy says, in this case, the mouse touching the border mashed it, makes it look like he's running into the frame. It did. It gave, that's a good point, Judy. It gave him some speed. Like he was coming out of nowhere. They didn't have time to snap the picture. He was coming out of nowhere and he was still kind of caught on the frame. That's a good point. So the introduction comes now. Oh, hey, Ted. You want to say hi?
Yeah,
He's just going to button his shirt up because his shirt is always unbuttoned.
yes. Sorry, I didn't know you were on a show.
Yeah, I know you were calling. I had to put my phone on silent.
Wow.
I know you were dying to tell me where you were at with Terraria.
Oh yeah, it's hard.
I'll look forward to it later. You're buttoned enough. You're buttoned enough. You want to come say hi? Here he is. There's my buddy. You just had your dinner. What'd you have, honey?
Reheated mac and cheese.
Here, come closer with your little face.
Hello.
Mac and cheese. You excited to go to Cape Cod tomorrow?
Yeah, is this my sister's friend?
Yeah, you can give her those corrections I made.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's her comic for Magpie Times. Okay, so I'm coming up to the introduction now. Sorry about that. He loves to say hi. I love it when he says hi. He's such a sweetie. At this time tomorrow night, you know the REM song? I didn't know the song until recently. It goes something like, night swimming deserves a quiet night. And I'm thinking tomorrow at this time we might be doing some night swimming. I just love the sound of that and the feel of that. And it's finally at a point in the summer where it's been so damn hot that I expect to be able to walk into the pond and swim without having any sort of medical problems, Thank you, Gail. Oh, Kaz, did you see his shirt? I had that printed for him for Christmas. That was one of his surprises. It's Buttons the dog. Like it's a photo of Buttons the dog on the shirt. So fun. So fun. So the introduction starts like this. And it comes at this point in the book. My wife, Jean Dancing Machine, accompanied me on one of my buying trips into New Brunswick in the summer of 1981. While in Fredericton, one evening she suggested going into Gagetown, an area we had never explored. Gagetown is 40 miles southeast of Fredericton. It had been considered to be the shire town of Queens County since 1786. This friendly community is in the heart of apple country. Oh God, that sounds so nice. And is a well-known area for duck hunting. In early years, Gagetown was a mixed farming area, whereas today most are apple farms. This appeared to be an ideal place to search for antiques. 9 o'clock the next morning on a comfortable summer day, we drove into Gagetown, a small town with a population of less than 1,000 residents. The first 3 hours were spent going from house to house and buying several old decoys, at least a dozen splint baskets, a few hooked rugs, and some nice country items. Later in the day, after mid-afternoon, Jean tried her hand at knocking on someone's door. At the very first house, she spotted a Folky hooked rug on the entryway floor. The owners, Raymond and Valerie Morris, you got excited there, didn't you? I did too. Refused to sell the rug, but from there, everything written in this book emerged. Jean learned the rug had been sold to the couple by a neighbor over 20 years ago. A most pleasant surprise was learning that these people were still living in the same location. Oh my God, it's happening. I'm getting palpitations. Same location, practically right next door. Needless to say, it took about a minute for us to reach the home of Raymond and Lydia Scott. Lydia welcomed us graciously into her home. Raymond was away a few miles down the road working on his woodlot. Several of their hooked rugs were scattered throughout the house, and before leaving we bought all of the rugs. Without our fully realizing what was taking place, this turned out to be... I'm getting choked up. Okay, hold on. Isn't life amazing? Without fully realizing it, this turned out to be one of the most interesting business ventures attempted by us since becoming involved in the antiques business in the late 50s. It was our first experience at buying merchandise that was not antique, something Jean and I always insisted we would avoid doing. Here we were in Gagetown trying to make a decision about asking the Scotts to hook some new rugs for us. The rugs were so folky and colorful that we couldn't resist placing an order for 10 of them. 6 weeks later, we returned to Gagetown to pick up the rugs we had ordered, and Raymond was introduced to us for the first time. Instantly, a friendship was formed. While there, we discussed the possibility of having them hook more rugs. 3 weeks later, I called on them, and we formed a business arrangement with a simple handshake. This relationship has endured without a hitch. When I first met them, the Scotts did not see themselves as artists, only as rug hookers. Each year, they are continually amazed to learn that more and more people are showing a greater interest in their work. These two have a common characteristic which most true artists possess, a genuine concern about their work. Money was never a concern whenever a rug was sold. The interest was always the rug itself. Is it good enough? 6 years later, and over 500 rugs later, much has happened which I feel merits being told. The contributions of the Scotts to the world of art need to be exposed. Both Gagetowners and outsiders will have the opportunity for the first time to see and judge their creations. The pictures the Scotts have envisioned and created can be documented for young and old to enjoy today and for years to come. What people see and read here will expose their native art. It will provide the Scotts with an opportunity to see their accomplishments. The book will give them an opportunity to discuss their work. So I'm going to fast forward through this part. Oh, God, it's a total choker. It's fantastic. This is just fantastic. The way that this story happened is just fantastic. So now we know. You wonder how these things began from the Fantastics. Well, this begins with this couple taking a road trip to buy old antiques and stumbling upon the Scotts. I do. Okay, you want to come and say hi? Come on, baby. Mom was just getting choked up, reading some sad stuff. Bulbasaur, is that Bulbasaur?
Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur. That's a Pokemon.
It has a bulb right here, but it's green.
Her hand is on the bulb. And what's that?
Oh no, since he's green.
Did you make that?
Yeah.
Oh,
since
honey, you made
green,
that.
He's going invisible.
Hey, can you get one of your puppets that you made?
Sure.
She's just constantly
that took a
making.
Long time.
This took a long time because it's very small and fine. Maybe you can't see it, but he's got. Oh, you can see it a little bit. Oh, there we go. He's got some spots on his head. He's like a little cube. Were you thinking of like Minecraft or something? Can you get one of your puppets? The puppet you made today?
Okay.
So good, her puppets. Oh, can you do the mask with the light bright whiskers? Sentences you never thought you'd say before you had kids. You already showed that? Show it one more time, hon. It's so good. This is one of my favorite pieces that she's done. Yeah, I think we did show that one with the light bright whiskers. Can you show one of your newer ones? She is so cute. Oh, she is so cute. Yeah. April says, hey, Jocelyn, great Pokemon, dude. She loves her Pokemon. Yeah, show us another one. All right, so let's come back over here. I just love this story so much. Let's keep looking at what the initials look like, because it might be that we see a rug that was made by the Scotts, right? It might be. Thank you, Kaz. I think she's coming back with more to show us. She doesn't have pants on, but she's got boy shorts on, so I guess that's okay. I made her take her pants off earlier because, hold on, let me find out where we were. They were covered with paint, and I had to scrub paint off the, oh, we're getting there. Yep. I had to scrub paint off the floor, turquoise paint, and then an hour later, black paint. And then I ordered a rug, like one of those foam mats to put in the dining room. That's now her studio. Ay, ay, ay. All right, so let's look at hungry pigs over here. Hungry pigs invading the family apple tray, right, because this is apple country. The rug is enhanced by the colorful sawtooth border. Come here, baby. Again, beautiful sawtooth border. We are seeing the pigs again, but we are incorporating the idea of the apple tree because this is apple country. So it would make perfect sense that people would want to see the apple tree in there. And we are seeing the kissing pigs, except they're kissing the tree or eating from the tree. And again, notice that the legs are not the same. It's amazing that they would take the time, instead of doing a stencil, to make the legs different each time. It just goes to show how natural and easy, oh, thank you, Gail, it was for them to show, here, come back, baby, to show the proper anatomy of an animal. So she just did this one today, and I really like this one. So he's kind of two-sided. He's a puppet made of corrugated cardboard. I bought a ton of like small cardboard pieces. It's like 100 pieces in a stack. They were easy to work with, right, Joss?
Mhm.
And she can operate him like that. Show how he's made. Show what you did. What do you call that right there? That's how he's made on the inside, the finger holes. But what do you call the top of his head? That work you did right there.
The top of his head.
What do you call that kind of painting?
A mixed. It has mixed colors.
It has mixed colors. Well, earlier today she said it was a gradient. She's not saying it now. But she said it was a gradient, and I thought, wow, that's amazing that you know that word. But really nice. Gail says you are such a clever girl. Okay, that's gonna get old fast. That's gonna get old fast. Not only do I have that happening, but I also have this endlessness happening as he scratches my legs. Try to get. I know. He said, "Oh, did you get some cookies? Did you get the box of cookies here, or did you pass down the box of cookies? Because I thought I'd have a jam cookie. I thought I would." All right, off you go. We're gonna finish the show. I love your stuff, Jess. Everybody loves your stuff. Your masks are great. She's doing some great. Oh, okay, go ahead. Show that one. She's doing some great recycling. Yeah, I like that you're working in cardboard now because it's just a bit. Okay, off she goes. It's just a bit more durable. You know what I mean? All right, love you, baby. Jess has such a good spatial awareness. Yeah, she is really good at.
I made a dead caterpie.
What?
I made a dead caterpie.
I don't understand that sentence. That's so true. She just stands all day and cuts things and makes patterns like this, you know. And it's just funny because I went to school for fashion first, so I was a pattern maker, and then I went to school and got a degree in costume design in the end, and I was a pattern maker. And isn't it weird that she would sit around making patterns all day because I haven't taught her. What do you got going?
A dead caterpie.
Oh, okay, a dead caterpie. I don't really
Can I
know what that
show
is.
it?
Yeah, go ahead, show it, and then you got to go away. It's a little green box on top with two.
It's a Pokemon. It's a reference to a Pokemon show where there's a dead caterpie. So that's fun.
Ask Papa if there's more wine. Okay.
Dad, is there more one?
Jocelyn, the microphone. Okay.
It was a
Sorry.
joke.
Okay. Oops. Oh my God, you made me choke up holding the book up. Okay. Go away, baby. I love you.
Pigs.
Kissing. Go. The pigs are kissing. That's all you need to know. Sorry about that, everybody. All right, moving on. Sorry about that. Professional show, not at all. Okay, and then on to another really interesting subject. Unexpected, right? Because you would never in any universe consider a tropical bird to be a farm subject. Is there a little bit more wine? Yeah, it could go right into this glass.
Oh, this is water.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'll have
no
water. No, that's okay. So the caption for this is colorful parrot rug with a maple leaf border. Their only attempt with this subject. So the fact that there's only one parrot rug, right? I think this is amazing. To remember that in the 1920s and 30s, the brand Aunt Lydia and a few competitors did a lot with parrot rugs because exotic birds were super popular as subjects in rug hooking, rug making in general. So that might be the reason they did a parrot rug, because they were kind of looking at older rugs for inspiration as they saw them, like in their, according to this book, right, there's so many rugs around. They're seeing tons of old rugs all over the place. They're practically valueless, right? They have not invaluable, but they have no value. So they probably saw some parrot rugs and thought, okay, let's do a tropical bird. But it turned out to be not a great subject. I would think with the red, white, and blue colors that it could be a great subject. But if it's the only one that they did, it's not a great subject. I would go for this rug any day, any day. Just the posture of the bird, right? The wide fatness of the bird, those little like cloying little hands, right, on the branch, the abridged branch that is weirdly not touching the border, right? I mean, the one time that something's not touching the border, you actually would expect this to exit the border and be touching the border, but it's not. I love the sort of patriotic coloring of the bird. I think it's super cute. It seems to be based on a lot of rugs at that time with the same kind of border, but in place of flowers or nondescript leaves. We've got the maple leaves, right? So that's for Canada. That makes a lot of sense. It's just an amazing rug. It's like that weird, because you don't, I'm guessing they didn't see a lot of parrots, right, to sketch from. I mean, Matisse did, but I'm thinking the Scots did not. So just the idea that the little head of the parrot is kind of tipped and lolling onto the shoulder in a very sort of pensive way is such a beautiful pose and so appealing. But I can see if you're selling your rugs to neighbors that this might not be a subject that everybody can relate to, and obviously not a popular rug. I wonder where that rug is now. Now, this caption says, "Can this kissing pig be trusted? Lydia claims that some pigs cannot be faithful." Um, they don't partner for life, I guess. So this is interesting because we've got a different breakdown of the kissing pigs. We've got the kissing pigs, a little bit distant, but there is a suspicious pig exiting at the same time. And the story is not of the two pigs in a harmonious and romantic kiss. It is of three pigs, right? So that kicks up a different kind of a story. Same characters, different story, right? Still working with a composition that is based on multiples, still working with the subject they know, the subject they cover the most, which is pigs. It's very, very interesting. So some pigs are not faithful. Well, that might be true, and this might be the product of that. Some of that unfaithfulness, just a little bit more. I don't want to put on like tons of calories in one sitting. Thank you. Okay, so this one is just, okay, that's plenty. Thank you. Raymond enjoys his families of pigs. It is the first rug to be hooked with this style border. So the others that we saw, this is not a book that runs in chronological order. I'm going to call this the hit or miss starburst border. This is the first rug that got that. And so we are seeing the product of all of those kisses. We are seeing lots of tiny pigs in silhouette that work really great with one big strong pig that is really well articulated, a very fit pig. This doesn't look like a big gross lumpy pig with the stomach dragging on the ground, although that would still be adorable. We are seeing a very fit pig. If this is a mother pig who produced all of these children, she bounced back fast. But beautiful composition of many multiples. They are so small they almost look like insects. A variation on a pig. This family's favorite pig takes this youngster for an enjoyable sleigh ride. So what are we seeing here? In my mind, we are seeing, I'm just going to take a quick sip. In my mind, we are seeing further proof that the Scots are looking at. Please shut that off. I'm recording a show in here. We are seeing further proof that the Scots are looking at other rugs, because this is a Grenfell composition, isn't it? This is a dog sled composition. And the joke is that it's not a dog sled, it's a pig sled, right? So this is smart. This really is a funny and fun composition using one of the pigs. Now, it's not just pigs, it's multiples of chickens. Chicken sitting on a nest. Let's see what this one says. Two fat hens appear content sitting on their eggs. The Scots have hooked several of these in a variety of colors. So another great composition, a composition of multiples. We are not looking at bookends. We are not looking at opposites. If we are looking at bookends as a composition, we are looking at two things and one of them is inverted, right? So that we have opposites. This is not that. This is quantity two. You love that, Barbara. Quantity two looking in the same direction, right? So this is, we've already got a composition problem. We have another composition problem. It's the breaking of the border, right? It's, I mean, again, I would want this rug because it's a rug that was made by the Scots, but it is a funny thing and I can't explain it. Why they love to have something sitting uncomfortably right at the border. I can't explain it. And I don't know if it's sort of, I don't think that they were being sort of belligerent and going, well, if that's a rule, we're going to break that rule. I don't think that at all. I just think that it was a very natural thing for them to think about filling the composition and in doing so, touching the border as often as possible. And it doesn't make for a super comfortable composition. But at this point in this episode and in this book, we can see that the Scots did some stuff that was really Scottish, right? In this, you see what I'm doing there? And kind of defies art logic. This is one of those. I love that it's in multiples. I love that it's in twos. That low-hanging fruit would be for the two chickens to be in the middle of the composition facing each other, right? Obviously. So this is very different. That in itself is a huge plus. In terms of collectability, I don't know if the Scots are collectible. I just don't know. I'm discovering this with you live on a Friday night. I don't know. But let's say that this book never happened and nobody knew the Scots. I think some of these rugs would have trouble becoming collectible because of the composition problems. Again, problems is the wrong word, but I'm not sure that I know the right word. April says maybe one did one of the sides and the other, maybe one did one of the sides and one did the other. Yeah, maybe. That's absolutely true. I'd like to hear more about the technique. Let's see if we can find out more about the technique. This is an incredibly good rug. Warren Kimball, eat your heart out with this, right? Because he did a lot of big fat cats. This is an even better big fat cat in my book. A very folky cat on a solid dark green background. Absolutely beautiful. The fact that the markings are done, it almost looks like ribs, doesn't it? Tailed, back, chest, whole thing. Animals are very expressive. This one is in the middle, which is different for the Scots. Very strong composition, right? A little off center, great. Yellow eyes, great. Red lips, unexpected. But very good. Buttons that I was calling him when I did those kissy noises. Very good hind leg line. It's super folky. Color palette is limited, right? It almost reminds me, like, it has a Stephen King feel. It reminds me of Salem's Lot, like the glowing eyes, you know. Melanie says, do you think they knew the border rule? Maybe just he liked to fill the frame. I don't know. I don't obviously I don't know. But I would say I don't think they knew the border rule. But I think that when they started making rugs, they bought the schoolhouse and they meant to do it as a business. And I think when they did that, they tried to seriously look at as many rugs as possible. And that is the right approach, isn't it? That's the right approach to a new business. You look, you observe, you try to make some good deductions. You try to educate yourself, right? On a folk art where there's not a lot of information to be had. I think they just tried to look at as much as they could, and they saw and maybe talked about things that they saw, and they interpreted them that way. And it turns out that a lot of the composition stuff that they were doing flies in the face of traditional composition. But the fact of it being so stubbornly repetitive, touching the border again, more touching the border, more touching the border on every side, every part of your body is touching the border. It's if you are going to collect the Scots and you love the Scots, which I already do, then you have to accept that they touch the borders. And I think it was just, I think they thought it wasn't a big deal. I think that's all it is. They thought it wasn't a big deal. They looked at other rugs. They probably drew as they went. I think they probably drew each piece individually. I don't think there was any transfer technique. I think each piece was drawn uniquely. And I think they just thought about what they'd seen and tried to make it look similar so that it looked like the presentation was right. And I think they didn't know about the borders, and they just kept hitting the borders left and right. It's an interesting conversation and open to other opinions. Obviously, that's my opinion, which is not worth anything. This is a very different subject for them. Keeping the starboard, we're going to call it the hit or miss starburst border. How well Raymond and Lydia recall their dog Trixie. She was the apple of their eye. She looks adorable. She looks like some kind of beagle or something, doesn't she? She's lumpy. She's adorable. She has that kind of cow print stamp to her. Again, the moving legs are great for them. This is exactly the way you want to see legs in folk composition. Her doghouse looks very comfortable. It looks like a covered bridge, right? It looks like it's plenty big for her. The fact of the doghouse being cut off is interesting because it creates a negative space that we want to go into. We want to look into that dark space, and we can't. So without knowing it, I think they created an element of great interest here with the doghouse. the hole for the doghouse. Normally, when you see a doghouse, you see a lot of house and a small hole. In this case, we're seeing a huge hole and not a lot of house. So I'm thinking maybe it's kind of a joke that Trixie was large and she needed a big hole to fit into her shelter. It doesn't matter. It's a beautiful composition. It's still a wobbly horizon line, and it's still funny to me that they felt they needed the horizon line. I think that is a kickback to looking at too many commercial patterns. But what I do like is the fact that the shape of the clouds are odd. They are long, skinny, puffy clouds that look a lot like the spots on animals. They either do square spots on animals that look like the state of Rhode Island, or they do these weird stretched oval shapes, right? It's very strange what they do with shapes, right? It's not a Warren Kimball. It's not a patchwork of repeat patterning. It's very odd shapes. It's like, here you go. Here's your oval. Here's your rectangle. Here's your triangle. Boom. Enjoy, right? That's what's for breakfast. And in the clouds too, the repeat of the three clouds, right? It's we're seeing repeated shapes, and that's very strong for the composition, but very, very odd composition. Oh, Diane, great to see you in Fort Worth, Texas. Welcome and happy Friday night. Cheers, my dears. It's a beautiful dog. It's a beloved dog. It's a lot of great fun to look at. Man, this is another example of a great primitive composition. These are, I mean, are you all finding these interesting? Because I'm finding these amazing. Okay. I'm not sure we're going to finish this tonight, and I'm going away next week, so this could be a problem. I just turned the page, and although I didn't see all these chapters, okay, no, it's there. Table of contents. The next chapter is the Scots. So let's learn a little bit more about the Scots. Raymond, and I'm reading directly from the book by Larry E. Dubord. The Scots. Raymond and Lydia have always lived in New Brunswick, Canada. Both were born and raised in small, closely knit communities. Lydia Clark was born in Hibernia in 1909, and Raymond Scott 4 years earlier in Summer Hill. She attended a teacher's college in Fredericton and taught at school for 4 years prior to their marriage. Raymond had worked as a farmer, lumberman, heavy equipment operator, and musician. They were married on July 11, 1931, and started farming by raising pigs and milking cows. A year later, Raymond and Lydia purchased Raymond's father's farm in Summer Hill. Several years later, the Canadian government decided to build a large army base in Summer Hill. Their land was expropriated from them in July of 1952. Having been forced to leave their land and farm, continues to gnaw at them today. Understandably so. They bitterly resent what the government did to them to create Camp Gagetown. I believe that experience caused them to become politically active and probably helped to shape their present conservative views. This is written in 1988. Early in 1953, they left Summerhill and bought a 2-story white frame house in Gagetown, which is still their home today. Shortly after moving, Raymond had a nervous breakdown. Lydia recommended rug hooking as therapy. He took her advice seriously and hasn't stopped hooking since. Lydia taught school for 4 years at Upper Hampstead, a small settlement nearby, and for 12 years in Gagetown. Raymond worked on construction at Coles Island and later at Camp Gagetown until his retirement in 1969. Lydia claims that the work began when Raymond retired. He continued his hobby of hooking rugs, mats, which has now turned out to be a full-time job even at the age of 82. It has also become a full-time job for Lydia, since each rug requires her constant attention. Lydia has also been artistic. She remembers that prior to entering school, she played in her grandfather's workshop. And created things with shavings, sawdust, and wooden blocks. She can remember letting her imagination run wild by drawing on slates with slate pencils. While attending college, she pursued special arts courses because of her interest in the field. For several years, she didn't recognize or have any special feelings about her artwork. She now feels differently and is grateful for having people constantly complimenting her. Raymond's mother, Effie Ray, was an avid rug hooker. She hooked out of necessity, hooking mats to cover her parlor and dining room floors. She continually traded her mats for new floor coverings. This gave Raymond an opportunity to learn how to hook rugs. While Lydia and Raymond were married and living in Summer Hill, Lydia often drew patterns for Effie Ray. One day, Lydia decided to put a mat on her own frame, one given to her as a wedding gift, and try hooking her own rug. She was a little slow at it, so Raymond picked up a hook and started helping. What is unusual and interesting about their rugs is that none can be made without both of them being involved. Raymond is colorblind. Even though he has many images and ideas, he is not artistic with pen in hand. Lydia draws the picture on burlap and sorts out the colors to be used. They work together. Good one, Barbara. They work together buying the burlap and preparing the wool. The rugs are a result of their combined efforts. That's what we wanted to know, wasn't it? There we go. Okay, so let me see where we ended here. I think we're going to have to come back. Yeah, we're going to have to come back at some point because I'm going to have to go soon, or we're not going to go anywhere tomorrow. Let me just see. Did I read you the... Not yet. Hold on. Let me read you the caption for this one. A quiet family stroll with mother and 12 chicks. Some babies can be seen feeding on worms. Oh yeah, 4 of the babies can be seen feeding on worms. Oh, that is so cute. That is so cute. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you know what? It's getting late. I hate to say it because I'm in it too. I'm in it to win it. But we are only halfway through the book. And yeah, there's more. There's a lot more text about these two people. And there's a lot more story. So I'm sorry I have to go away on vacation again, but I have to. It's my favorite place in the world, Cape Cod. I have to be there one more time this summer. But why don't we say, I'm going to fox this ear right here. I'm going to fox right here. That's where we left off. And we're going to come back to that when I come back on Monday, I think it's the 18th. God, this is such a surprise to me. I thought I was going to blaze through this book because the images were so primitive and simple. I thought, well, I thought this is going to be adorable. How precious is this, right? In my stupid patronizing way, I was thinking this is going to be easy to blaze through this because I literally just went like this and took pictures of photos and then did no, this is a big story, and this is a story that is worthy of telling and lingering on. So I'm not going to rush the story of Raymond and Lydia Scott. I can't. But I do have to do laundries if we're going to leave in the morning for a vacation. I can't believe we're going back to Cape Cod. I'm so excited. So anyway, I'm very happy. Thank you so much. I'm very happy that we were here and we were able to do this tonight. You know, I wrote to a woman on Cape Cod who has a weaving studio, and I asked her. She hasn't written back. I wrote her yesterday. Maybe that's not a good sign. Maybe I sounded like a desperate freak, but I asked her if I could go over and do a video with her because her weaving looked so cool and interesting. I'm hoping that she writes back and I can do that. Because I'll probably give you some sketchbook snacks during the week, some composition ideas to sketch up if you feel like it. But I'm really going to be killing it with hooking my pieces for the Halloween book, for the haunted rug. I've got a long way to go with my haunted rug pieces, and I want to be sure. I'm so excited about the pieces I'm seeing of yours, but I want to be sure that I get my pieces in there too, because this book is so important to me. Again, if you can come to the party, please come to the party. It's like, if you're thinking, oh, Deanna's not going to notice if I'm at the party or not, yeah, I promise you I will. It's such a big deal. So I'm going to be working on that. I'm going to be bringing 3 of my witches. I'm bringing Campfire Witch. I'm bringing Stitch Witch, who's doing a knitting project. That's one with all the ombre colors in the background. And I'm doing the Monster Mash witch, who's listening to the gramophone and dancing. So I'm bringing 3 witch projects with me. And I'm super excited. I'm bringing all of my wool bats because I'm loving pulling pieces of cotton candy out of those and just hooking directly with it. Kirsten asked me yesterday, while you're hooking with bat, is it pilling up like crazy? No, it's not pulling up at all. I don't know the right language because I'm not there yet, but I don't know what the word staple means, but I think that for sheep, I think it means, I think it refers to how long and intertwined the fiber is. I'm not sure, but with the bats that I'm using, it's super long. It's like 14 inches long, the fibers, and they are super glossy and brushed and very intertwined, and I can pull off cotton candy pieces and hook it, and it hooks up so fast. And no, I'm not getting any pilling, if you were wondering. So I'm super excited to be working on that while I'm there, sitting by the pond where we've been going since before I was born, and hopefully doing some band concerts and all of that stuff. And if we're friends on Facebook, you'll see what I'm up to. If I can find anything interesting for us textile-wise, if I can go to a flea market and I see some hook drugs there, I'll take some photos or I'll take a little video and I'll share that with you. But staple, the length of the fiber. Okay, staple. Okay, so the staple for the wool bat that I've been using is very long. It's way more than 12 inches long. So maybe that's part of the pilling thing. I don't know. I'm also making my pieces and putting them aside to photograph them for the book. I'm not like walking on them. So whether they would pill, being given the opportunity, I'm just not sure. What I do know for sure is that I just am going to go to bed tonight dreaming about Raymond and Lydia Scott. And let me show you one quick little picture so that you can dream too. And we'll come back to them as soon as I'm back. Yeah, let me show you this picture. Isn't that precious? Yeah, there's a music one on the other side. There just seems like there's so much love and companionable happiness and camaraderie between them. It's a beautiful story, and we've only scratched the surface. So have a great week, everybody. Happy Friday night. Happy weekend. I will be with you. Be looking out on Ribbon Candy Hooking. I'm going to be putting out a newsletter, right, to show some of our new products that are out. Reminder that past issues of Magpie Times are available for sale as Kindle or physical copies on Amazon. And an easy and inexpensive way to get a physical copy if you are an international shopper or a Kindle shopper and you want the digital version just like that. You're a Prime shopper, it's going to come for free. So be looking at Ribbon Candy Hooking because we will be putting some orders up for sale while we're away, including Magpie Times number 3, the country fair. That's coming at you very, very soon. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to Patreon supporters for supporting this channel. Books like this that I spend a stupid amount of money on, I'm sure you wouldn't approve of how much I spent on this book, but I'm sure you will approve of the fact that this video will be online forever. And although my children were shouting in it and I was drinking wine and I'm exhausted, despite that, we're sharing this book together, and this is our history. So that's where that money goes. And thank you so much to Patreon supporters for supporting the brand, the channel, and everything that we do here, because without you, I would have folded a long time ago. Be thinking about the next issue of Magpie Times for yourself, Marshmallow World, the winter issue. Be working on your projects for the Haunted Rug. And if you have any questions for me while I'm away, ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. Look at our Facebook page, Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, the biggest rug hooking page out there. And look at YouTube because I will be posting some videos for sure. I might have some shorts for you that are fun to look at. Maybe you learn something here and there. Otherwise, have a great week, everybody. I will look forward to seeing you again next week on Monday the 18th when we come back to look at the Gagetown Hookers.
Bye.
One more time. My baby's coming to say bye to you, and have a great week, everybody. Come down and say bye with me.